What is up, party people? It is Dave. It is Duncan back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new release from UK sludge metal trio Row of Ashes. The band's new album, Tied into Ruin, will be released on June 13th via Road to Masochist. Hailing from Bristol, UK, Row of Ashes are conductors of noise, channelers of its power, and their excoriating music taps into the raw, chaotic essence of volume overload. Noise is their tool, their weapon as they shatter the walls of misdirection and willful self-deception. After the impressive opening gambit of their first album in 2017, Let the Long Night Fade, the band trimmed down to a three-piece and headed for even darker, more turbulent waters. Through 2020's Unbeliever and 2022's Bleaching Heat, Row of Ashes became ever more uncompromising and defiant. Their raging songs, a shocking collision of sludge noise, post-hardcore and extreme metal. Now they are ready to unleash their most untrammeled and uncontrollable outpouring of their art, surfing on the cusp of their insurmountable power of elements. This is Tied into Ruin. Row of Ashes pour everything they have, everything they are, into each note that they play, into the soul-shattering wall of sound. You can taste integrity, the intensity of expression, and the honesty of emotion. Bloodied, broken, but never defeated, Row of Ashes have never been so vital and essential. The album was recorded by James King at Joe's Garage, then mixed and mastered by Rob Hobson. So, we reviewed the band's previous album, Bleaching Heat, which I'm pretty sure I said in the review I thought was their second album. And after reading this press release, turns out they had a 2017 album, which I knew nothing about. And it is not on any streaming platform except Bandcamp. I found it on there.
Right, well, if it's not on any streaming platform, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around, Dave, does it make a noise? Like, unless the press statement specifically said album number 3 or album whatever, right? Unless it specifically said that, not a fucking mind reader.
Well,
I've got your back, Dave. Don't let the internet ruin you.
I tracked it down. It is on Bandcamp. It does exist. They do have a 2017 album. So this would technically be album 4, if all of that is correct. Different lineup. I think they're different vocalists on the first album. Maybe that's why it's not on like Spotify and stuff. I don't know. The previous album though, Bleaching Heat, was 8 tracks, about 30 minutes long. This release has increased to 10 tracks, with the overall run time about 40 minutes. I enjoyed the previous. I think we all enjoyed the previous album. I'm pretty sure I said like these guys have a ton of potential. I think I scored it slightly lower than.
I scored it at 4.5.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
Must have scored
yeah.
it at 4.
I gave it a 4. I think there were a couple of kind of parts or moments of the album where I felt maybe could have been tightened up a little bit, maybe condensed a little. The closing track was also, I remember being a little bit kind of like slightly underwhelmed with it, just compared to how the album opened up. So like Bleaching Heat was a really strong kind of like opening album. So that brings us through to the brand new album, Tied into Ruin. I mean, I suppose like its predecessor, this opens up extremely strong. Like
monstrous, yeah.
And I mean, I'll get into the music in a second, but like
it's the best name for an opening song ever. Leveler.
Yeah.
Fucking just wipes at everything.
Yeah. And I think that the first thing that kind of stopped me in my tracks about this was the production of it. As soon as that first track kicked in, it's like, oh my god, I don't remember Bleaching Heat sounding like it had this much bite to it. And I went back and I listened to Bleaching Heat to compare them, and it didn't. Like Bleaching Heat was like, it had a really manky sound, if you had to kind of describe it. It's compared to this, it almost sounds like a kind of lo-fi kind of filthiness on Bleaching Heat. This one, like the filthiness is still there on Tied into Ruin, but it sounds more chiseled. Like there's something just like really punchy about this. That the mix has definitely got more clarity to it. The guitar tones feel a bit more metallic. The drums are definitely, much punchier. That snare has like a snap to it like nothing else. And the bass, which was also very orgasmic on Bleach and Heat, is all girth on this release. And when people say to you, it's not the size, it's what you do with it. That is a lie, Duncan. That is a lie. It is all about the size.
We
It
went
is all
right in
about
the
it.
penis chat far too early. I was not ready for this.
In this case, the bass is huge. Like this is all size. It's
Right, Dave.
It's
Penis. Right, like large throbbing dick. Let's get back to it. Come on, what are we doing here?
it's almost like another guitar on this release. Like, well, it technically is, I suppose, another guitar, but you know what I'm saying. It's like
You just preempted someone going, well, actually, a bass guitar has a guitar in the name.
Yeah.
So well done, Dave. Well
it's a
done.
fair point. It's a fair point, imaginary internet person. But what I'm saying is, it's kind of like adding an extra layer of like grit and rumble to an already monstrous guitar sound on this album.
Yeah.
Like it's so thick sounding. So like before I get into music, hats off to you for the production job because it delivers this album like a fucking wrecking ball. Ridiculous. Loved it. Loved the production. Musically, Roll of Ashes have not dialed back on this release. Like, if anything, this album goes harder than Bleach and Heat. It's like still like very much like drenched in this melancholic kind of doomy mood, but with this sludgy kind of brutality. It's kind of like, it sounds like what would happen if Will Haven came off their antidepressants, basically, is how this sounds, right? There's something more for me. There was something more direct about this album. It's much more to the point. The first track has the like the doom and the sludge, but has almost like the urgency of hardcore in it, which makes it a brilliant opener. It like sets the tone. The riffs are even more like kind of punishing. That closing riff on the opening track is fucking ridiculous, colossal. And when it finishes, you're just like absolutely hyped for like what is going to follow that track, and like the album continues to deliver in such a big way. Like these tracks just like march right over the top of you. It's an album that sounds thick, it sounds dense, it's very weighty and hugely kind of corrosive as well, but they're also very smart about it. And you can hear there's been a level up in the songwriting on this release, because they cleverly don't keep this album just like, it's not an album that sits in the red the whole time.
Yeah.
They've cleverly just dropped in these moments where the guitars might just like drop back, or they'll give you some nice clean tones in the guitar, just, and it creates this bit of kind of ebb and flow, or like, peaks and valleys, whatever you want to call it. Or maybe even start a track with something that's a bit more restrained and then build up into those big like crushing riffs, like they do on a track like Wake. Also noticed on this album, the lead work is much more apparent on this album. Obviously, like Bleach and Heat had a lot of noisy, discordant kind of lead work that like amplified the kind of anarchy of the album, but it feels like they've pushed that a bit further on this. It's a bit further in the front. It feels like it's less background noise and more like almost like a part of the riffs. And I really like that. I think that addition, or that kind of like elevation of that, added even more like menace to their sound. Like you finish this album and you feel like you've got like that kind of taste of blood in your mouth. It's just like, it's one of these albums that just kind of constantly like beats you down. My kind of small criticism of the last album was I found that there were areas where it maybe meandered a little bit. It wasn't an issue on this album. Like even when they do go slightly more experimental and maybe take an extra 20-30 seconds to build into a bigger section, it feels justified. Like it feels like it has a point. It wasn't just like a filler moment. That section of added has purpose. They never overstretch it too long that it became like, okay, right, what are you doing, guys? Like, this is getting a bit boring. But because this album was anything but boring, I spent the majority of it picking up my anus. Like, it was just kept collapsing, Duncan. I'm not gonna lie. There's nothing worse with a collapsing anus. Absolutely not.
Describe the album in one word: prolapse. That's
Listen,
where I'm going with this.
being in your 40s does not come without its problems, Duncan. But it was all worth it, you know, to listen to Tide into Ruin. I'm gonna say that. I think, I think. Sorry, I don't know where my mind is tonight.
Arse like a windsock. It's just horrible.
I liked that. The track kind of around the middle of the album, Wake. I thought it was a really good moment on the album. It's one that it's the track they can expand on the most, which is it's like a really like slow burner that just builds into this kind of wailing kind of feedback, like kind of eruption, and then leads you into Immoralist, which comes in and just absolutely wrecks your neck. Like, this could be one of my favorite moments on the album. It goes to, I'm going to say, almost LLNN levels of heaviness here, but with an almost like that kind of Willhaven kind of like angular kind of streak to it. It's fucking bleak, man. What a fucking bleak track this is. Murky, just absolutely annihilating in tone. And actually that last kind of like chunk of the album, they ramp everything up. Like, this is not an album that kind of like slowly kind of withers away. It goes the opposite direction. Everything like Immoralist into Wretch into Icon. That's a flex. Those three tracks right there, like, fuck me. It's like they found this extra gear, which we knew nothing about, and like and held on to it for that last part of the album. And by the time they kind of drag you through like the murky waters of those three tracks, you're like almost begging for like some air. You're just like, and then they give you that like on Coda right at the end there for about 2 minutes, granted, which is great. And then they remind you, wait a minute, remember this is a Sludge album, guys. And then like, we're not going to go out like that. We're not going to go all nice and clean and melodic. No. And it's a very clever like closing track. The range of like dynamics they use, and like just unbelievable kind of closer. Just with level buildings, that last track. But the choice of chords when it gets heavy is almost kind of uplifting in a way. Like, it feels like more major key than minor. So like part of it has that almost kind of sense of like peace and closure to an extent. And then right at the end, it swallows you whole and you're into the fucking abyss. Like, that's like I thought this was really fucking good. Definitely a leap forward for me for this band. I think Bleaching Heat showed like, or kind of like hinted at like the potential this band could have. Whereas this album like showcases that potential, even vocally. Like Chris Wilson, he sounds even more confident on this release. His range sounds bigger. His screams are like even more visceral, and the kind of mixture of screams and like that kind of almost kind of like dirty kind of melody, it works brilliantly on this album. Like, well done, guys. Like, really enjoyed this one. Thought it was great. What about yourself? What did you make of this?
So, if Willhaven
Yes.
Decided to start a band with Conan, that's kind of what Row of Ashes would be. It has all the nasty girth. God, we're just going to lean into the girth. All the nasty girth of Conan, but all the dissonance of Willhaven. And it's a delightful experience to listen to, because both those bands kind of are masters of their own domains. And I've never really thought what would happen if you took like one shade of super fucking heavy and another shade of super fucking heavy and then kind of bring them together. I wonder what that experiment would turn out like. Well, that she's is the answer to that question. This is like, is a statement of intent. from the band. Like I kind of felt all the way through this, they just had like, it was just focus. It was just like a design to detail of what does the song need to do, where it is right now, and as a result, you get that. I had wondered myself from track 7 to 10 if that would be, because you've got me thinking this way now, and I hate you for it. Is that the other side of the vinyl? Because that would make sense the way that Wake kind of feeds out, closing at one side, and then like track 7 through 10. Yes, 10 starts off light, but like it ends, and like you mentioned, it ends in the abyss. Like track 7 through 10 are in itself just like, it's not even a flex. It is just like a pristine exercise in just brutal delivery. It is really something else. But the band are not scared to add. It was funny because it made me think a little bit of, not that they sound at all like this, but back in the day we reviewed an album called The Hutch from a band called State Number 8, who eventually who started off kind of post-metal-y, and have since kind of transitioned over to kind of sludgy grunge. They're now just called Stake, that's Stake, from Belgium, if I believe. I might be right there. Maybe. Woefully underappreciated. Fucking absolutely incredible band. But like the way this album kind of pieces together those heavier moments with the lead work in particular made me think a lot of kind of early Stake, little bits of Mastodon. The lead work has that kind of Blood Mountain era sort of kind of lead work that runs through. It's really, really, really good. And the lead work cuts completely against what's playing underneath. That dankness is there adding heavy, and you get these moments just like kind of almost wanky proggy lead work. It's really, 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 really well done. I mean, I love the artwork. The artwork, this kind of almost ghosty shroud, it kind of just sums up the album. So it's a death shroud of an album, in the best possible way. Like Leveler is so heavy to open with. It's like so fucking heavy, and you kind of get base level heaviness from that. So you're like, I'm fine. And Fracture doesn't really do much to upset the apple cart, but the end of Ember, track 3, just is that's the LLNN effect. It's just that thing where it hits you and you're just like that. Oh, there's another level. Like they just there's like a whole other level below the heaviness that I thought existed. Vocally, I think this is super strong across the board. I love the tone, but the tone is, to the layman, the tone might seem like just uncontrolled, but it is so heavily controlled. It's unbelievable. Like the emphasis, the fact that it's so clear as well. It's another vocalist that I can speak about recently where I understand what he's singing with that lyric sheet in front of me. Very, very, very clear enunciation for a tone which is very gravelly and very fucking strong. You don't usually get that. It's usually one kind of gives way to the other. If you enunciate too much, you kind of lose the grit. If you do too much grit, you lose the enunciation. Perfect on this one. Vocal production as well. There's no fucking on this at all. No one like tweaking things or anything like that. That, I imagine, is how he sounds. I imagine if he pulled up to McDonald's and he was having a bad day and they said, "Hi, welcome to McDonald's. Other fast food chains are out there with drive-thrus. Can I take your order, please?" And he was just pissed off. That's what they would hear on the other end. That's like minimal. To be honest, there's minimal fuckery at all here. If you listen to it, it has that kind of capture and presence of "we'll do it live, god damn it." It's really, really good. The thing is, it's a curious thing as well because it's so heavy and it's so dank, and it's also 40 minutes in length. This album does not feel its length.
No, it doesn't.
Like, at all. Even with that closing track being ostensibly 3 minutes of a descent into feedback, the void, and reverb, it doesn't feel like the tracks go in surprisingly quick. They don't overplay riffs either. Like they've got that nailed down. Like the heaviness of it. There's not one riff on this where I'm like that. Oh, one more time. It's like they give you, and like some of these riffs are colossally heavy, but they just seem to. That's what I mean. It's measured and it's balanced, and it is. I don't want to say surprisingly intelligent because that makes me sound like I'm saying the band's dumb. I just mean like the attention to detail and the way they've approached this. It shows a level of songwriting and composition which is above the norm of the genre. Sludge is It's a lazy man genre. You know what? You play a riff and go, that was it. Oh, that's fucking great. Like, now we will play it for 7 minutes. They're like, should we try something else? No. 7 minutes. Oh, well, she was like, 7 minutes. Trust me. And it usually works. You add a smoke machine, everyone's fucking happy, right? But you can languish in the, we could play this for, like, we want this track to be 5 minutes long, so we'll just double it up. That'll be fine. And no one will care. In the case of this one, like, the execution is, this plays 4 times, and that's all it needs to play. And when you listen to it, you're like, by Jove, it only needs to play 4 times. Why these guys are not bigger, like, confuses me.
Yeah.
Like, there's an audience, a huge pre-made audience for this sort of stuff right now.
Yeah.
And to me, they should be traveling up and down the country constantly playing, like that kind of mid-size smoky venue where people just go in and just want their eardrums fucked. Right? That's kind of where we are. A band that just continues to get even more interesting every release. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so final thing, scores for Tied Into Ruin by Row of Ashes. Prepare your anus, folks. This band have...
We had passed, I'd set up enough time.
I know.
There was enough time in between the anus chat that no one would have been thinking, go back there.
Well, if they skipped it, they're going to get it again.
I like the idea of, we'll just go to the closing line here like that. Anus. Anus at 22 minutes.
There's no escaping the anus, people. The band have leveled up their sound, so I'm going to level up my score to 4.5 out of 5 for this album. Duncan, what is your score?
So, Dave, the reason I knew comfortably what my score on the previous album was is because I went back and checked. I did my due diligence.
All right, okay.
I was like, that this right here is a 4.5, and then I went back and I was like, that. Interestingly enough, I scored the previous album 4.5, which doesn't make sense because this is better. So I am now retroactively replacing my previous grade to a 4, and this is a 4.5.
Right, okay.
So I'm siding with you. I'm not saying you were right.
Oh my god, this is a first.
Not saying you were right, because those words will never leave read my lips. Read my lips. Davey's no right. I think through the passage of time and better education on my part, a more refined palate, I've been able to reassess grades that I've given out with a more critical eye. And as such, I would give their previous release a 4, and I would join you on this one at a 4.5, confirming that I'm right and you've picked the right score with me. See what I did that?
Yeah, easy. I see what you did there. Smoke and mirrors, so that's what that was, Duncan.
Anuses and Mirrors. That's the name of the next. It's the name of our new show.
Row of Ashes.
Gotta be flexible.
Tied Into Ruin on June 13th on Road to Masochist. Check out the band. The links above, below, wherever you are. Have a listen, see what you think. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on the new album. That is a review. Thank you for checking out. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Anus.